Trees are pretty chill for the most part. They just sort of stand there soaking up some rays and occasionally dropping their smalls on passersby. But what if trees had a little more agency? What if they could walk? Would we even notice if a forest just kind of ambled away? Would we stop and stare as the woods took a stroll through town, or would we just keep walking like nothing happened? It's hard to say. It turns out that trees don't really have the biological hardware to walk, at least not in the traditional sense. Most trees don't have legs or a skeleton to support weight or muscles to move those legs. So any sort of tree locomotion would have to be, well, a little different. Let's explore some ways that trees could walk, from the most grounded to the totally out there. First off, trees do grow roots down into the ground, and those roots can grow in all sorts of directions. Some trees send out roots that look like legs, but they aren't really walking. Roots use tiny root hairs to absorb water and nutrients from the soil. Those root hairs are so small that you probably wouldn't even notice them. So if a tree decided to take a walk, it would probably need bigger, stronger roots. One way that trees could walk would be by growing new roots that act like legs and then shedding their old roots like old skin. This is actually something that some plants do. When it's time to sprout new roots, certain plants produce chemicals that dissolve the protective layer around their roots, allowing them to split open and send out new roots while keeping their nice and cozy underground. If trees did this, they might need to grow entirely new root systems to support walking. That means that our tree would need to shed its entire old root system and grow a whole new one underneath its feet, so to speak. And while some trees do send out roots in different directions, like the prop roots of a banyan tree, we haven't seen any tree species totally regrow a new root system under itself. So this walking method remains a bit, shall we say, unrooted in science. Another option would be for trees to grow roots that wind around each other, sort of like a vine, and then lift themselves up off the ground. We have seen climbing plants like vines and ivy use tendrils to grab onto surfaces and propel themselves upward, and scientists have figured out that these tendrils basically sense where gravity is pulling them and then curl in that direction to climb. If a tree could do something similar with its roots, it could inch its way upward and eventually take a step. But again, we haven't seen any trees attempt this, probably because trees have other ways of getting tall, like adding another ring to their trunks each year, and once a tree grows a thick woody trunk, it doesn't really need to get any taller. So let's think bigger and smaller. What if a tree could walk by growing smaller roots that spread out in all directions and then contracting and expanding them to move the tree forward? Kind of like a water-based peristalsis, if you know what I mean. Well, this isn't outside the realm of possibility. After all, we've seen single cells move using what's called cytoplasmic streaming. Basically, the cell uses motor proteins to move cytoplasm around its body, which in turn moves the cell itself. And we've seen some multicellular organisms, like this adorable mini worm called a nematode, move using a similar method. The nematode contracts and expands different parts of its body in a wave-like motion that propels it forward. If a tree could do something like this, it would probably need to coordinate the action of all its roots, which seems unlikely given that roots don't really communicate with each other. But it is also possible that the tree could walk by coordinating the action of its leaves and branches instead. Some plants, like this sensitive area, can move their leaves toward or away from light sources. And others, like the Venus flytrap, can slam their mouths shut in mere seconds when they sense movement. If a tree could move its branches quickly and in unison, it could, for example, whip all its limbs forward in one direction and then anchor itself with its leaves and branches. In a way, this is kind of how a kangaroo rat moves, by hopping on its powerful hind legs and then bracing itself with its hands. If our tree had a nice thick trunk and strong branches, it could stay upright after kicking off in one direction and then repeat the process to walk. The good news is that trees do have what it takes to move their branches and leaves quickly. The bad news is that doing so would probably kill the tree. So maybe we shouldn't wish for trees to walk anytime soon, or maybe we should just wish for them to take really cute steps.